because when we don't adequately support women in the workplace, when we don't adequately put in place people-centered measures,
Yeah.
we lose women from work, and we see that. We lose really, really valued talent.
And not
Ellie, you've just come back from your third maternity leave, and maternal mental health is one of those things that comes up time and time again when we're in workplaces, because it's such a massive change. It's not just when you have a baby that that's the only thing in your life that's changing. Maybe your relationship changes, your sleep changes, your diet changes, and your work life changes as well. So it's thinking about how can we support women when they are returning from maternity leave, and what do you think is kind of key when it comes to employers taking those steps to provide that support?
Yes, no, it is. It's a big life change. And, speaking from experience of having three so close in age, it starts right from when you do find out you're pregnant and you're having those conversations with your manager. And the first thing you kind of do is think, what's the maternity policy? What does that look like? And then before you know it, you're going off on your maternity leave. And I think the most important thing for me when I'm on maternity leave is feeling included, and I really do want to feel part of the team. And I think that that's a bit of a scary situation for some managers, because they maybe don't want to hound people when they're off on maternity leave. But myself, I really do want to feel that inclusion. For example, our workplace wellbeing hub launch, years of work went into the development of that and the launch. And of course, I was on maternity leave, and I really wanted to see that event come to life. So I was able to go to that on my mat leave on Keeping in Touch Day. And it was so lovely to catch up with you and the team and see that in action. And that really meant something to me. So, I do think employers should be looking at keeping women included throughout that year. In terms of that strategic approach, what employers need to be putting in place is really good mental health, maternal mental health policies. And the likes of our Wellbeing Hub, I know you get a lot of inquiries about that, Lauren, how that can help support managers.
100%, because as you said, when you find out that you're pregnant, one of the first things you do is open up your maternity policy.
Yeah.
You're maybe looking for, what does this actually mean for me? And a lot of the time, maternity policies or mental health policies are not written by the people who need them. So it could be a really confusing process to try and navigate. What do these words mean? What does this process look like in practice? What am I entitled to? What support can I get?
Yes.
So a huge part of that for us is building really people-centered policies. That might start with consulting with your employees, finding out how do they experience your current processes. Are there things that could be improved? What would it mean for them if they were returning to work to have that kind of support in place? So we'll look at building really comprehensive policies that feel supportive right from the second that you find out you're pregnant, right the way through when you're caring for young children, when you've just come back to work. But it's also giving people the confidence to use those policies. And you touched on managers there.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, managers really want to help, but they maybe don't know how. So a huge part of what we do is provide training that equips people on implementing those policies, supporting women when they return to work, when they're off, putting in place things like reasonable adjustments in order to make that transition as smooth as possible.
Yeah.
And then also providing resources beyond the workplace. So being able to log on to our Workplace Wellbeing Hub and read a host of resources about maternal mental health or paternal mental health, to be able to think about how does caring responsibilities impact my workday, and to not feel alone in that, even if you're not physically in your workplace.
Yes, and you can log on to that when you're on maternity leave, which is really important as well. It's that strategic approach that we offer at Action Mental Health workplaces. We want to support employers to be the best in this area. And as you said, it's consulting with women and looking at your maternity policy. Is it the best that it can be? Is there an opportunity to offer an enhanced package? Is there an opportunity to offer that bit more? And that's where we can support and create guidance and templates to put in a really robust policy. And also then going on from that, it's supporting with women coming back to work. What does a phased return look like for that woman? What is the childcare situation? It's asking those questions and feeling empowered and confident as a manager to do that. We know from a recent CIPD study that people are taking an average of 9.2 days off a year of sickness absence. And we know mental ill health is right up there for one of the reasons and the causes. We want to urge employees to really look at those numbers. That's nearly 2 working weeks a year. And we want to urge employees to look at those numbers and retain valued women in the workplace. And what are other ways that we can do this?
Absolutely. So it really comes down to, you talked about provision there when it comes to support, and sometimes we'll have conversations about the financial cost of implementing support, but we very rarely have conversations about both the financial and human cost of not implementing that support. Because when we don't adequately support women in the workplace, when we don't adequately put in place people-centered measures, we lose women from work, and we see that. We lose really, really valued talent.
And not even just lose, it's absenteeism and presenteeism, isn't it, that we can, so they could return to work.
Yeah, and their head somewhere else because they feel stressed and burnt out and overwhelmed. So it's looking at what can we do to make sure that we're not just doing the bare minimum, that actually we are supporting people right from the point that they're employed the whole way through their career, so that they're able to progress and feel fulfilled at work. Because ultimately, work is such a massive pillar of mental health, and we know that from the World Health Organization, that work can give you a sense of purpose, a sense of identity, and that's never more important than in that transitionary period.
No, and we know it's conducive to good mental health for that reason, for lots of reasons. Connection, financial stability, and even just coming back into the world of work after only speaking with tiny humans for a year. It is a place that a lot of women want to be, and it sometimes is something that we very much are looking forward to. So it's all about having those conversations and not being afraid to do that, to ask, well, what can we do to help, and what flexible working arrangements can be put in place, and what does reasonable adjustment look like? And that's what we do, and that's what workplaces can strategically support with.
Yeah, so for a lot of employers, they want to help, they don't know how, and that's where we come in. We are experts not just in mental health, but also in supporting you from a policy and strategic perspective. So we will come in, we will take that and make sure that you are supported right from the point of employment all the way through, whether that's through providing accessible resources and training and wellbeing support on the Workplace Wellbeing Hub, whether that's training employees to have those tools that they can use in the moments that feel more challenging or when they're in transitionary periods of change, whether that's supporting managers or providing really robust templates, guides, and policies. So I guess when I think about it, it's don't be afraid to ask for help when it comes to implementing these measures. That's what consultancy services are there for, and they can make the world of difference.
Yes. Hi, I'm Shelly from Action Mental Health's Workplace Wellbeing team. If you've enjoyed today's video and you'd like to find more information on our services, please find the link below in the comments.